would think that, again, American civilians would not be harmed. I think that would be a fool's errand. I think Putin would incur the wrath of Trump.
Now, I first want to cross over to the United States and welcome to the program Tim Burchett, who's a Republican congressman from Tennessee's 2nd Congressional District. Just yesterday, Tim Burchett met with Elon Musk as part of the DOGE subcommittee, having met President Trump. Welcome to you, Congressman.
Thank you for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Very, very welcome. Now, let me ask you first about some of the, well, there's so much to get your thoughts on, but first this, we've got the American administration cutting off military aid and intelligence, and as you've clearly seen, it's caused a very strong reaction. It's seen as a betrayal. Now here, on this radio station, we've heard the former director of the CIA and a Ukrainian MP both telling us this will cost Ukrainian lives. What do you say to those authoritative voices, Congressman?
This war is costing Ukrainian lives. America's got over $250 billion invested in this. I think it's time for Europe to step up and pay their fair share. This is a European conflict. Russia is not, they're always making comparisons to Russia and Nazi Germany. As you know, your country was terribly impacted in that war. Russia's GDP is somewhere between Canada's and France. You know, we don't step up when the Chinese are imprisoning and putting in concentration camps the Uyghur population, forced organ harvesting, abortions, things like that, because of the financial wherewithal of China, its investment in all our countries. But yet we're getting involved in this, and, you know, people are getting rich off of it. The investment is incredible, and it's flowing right into the arms factories and the stock portfolios of a lot of people.
But Congressman, you describe this as a foreign war. From your perspective, I understand it is a foreign war, but it's a foreign war in which America has been providing vital support until just days ago. The former head of the CIA, John Brennan, he described it as extortion to use intelligence and arms supplies in this way. We're talking about extortion, as he argues, against a friendly nation fighting for its survival. You can see where the accusation of betrayal comes from, can't you?
Well, John Brennan is a political hack.
What about his argument, though, Congressman?
He has been against it. He makes anti-American statements, in my opinion, on a regular basis. Again, why are we involved in this war? Why isn't Europe at least matching us dollar for dollar? Why is this America's investment? And all of a sudden, we have a president talking peace and bringing people to the table, and then the world all of a sudden is critical of Donald Trump, and I find that offensive.
But we're seeing,
and I think it's very obvious that this is just a war of economics.
I hear your argument, Congressman. I understand what you're saying, but you've withdrawn help and support, which will cause our Ukrainians to die. That support having been suddenly taken away from a friendly nation, and it seems to be in the cause of forcing a better business deal out of Ukraine. That's why it's been described as extortion. That's why critics are saying this is akin, to the behavior, I'm quoting here, the behavior of a crime syndicate. I wonder how you answer those accusations.
Well, that's bogus. We gave them $250 billion, and by President Zelensky's own account, they can't account for over 100 million of that. So I think there's some questions need to be asked. But as far as the business operation, President Trump has offered them a deal on their rare earth minerals, and everybody's very short-sighted. The areas where the rare earth minerals are actually in some combat areas, and the last thing Russia wants to do is to harm an American civilian. So in effect, it's good for the business community, it's good for Ukraine, and it helps further stop the needless war.
Yeah, I do, as you can imagine, want to come to that. And again, thank you for your time. But when you say President Zelensky has spoken about $100 billion going missing, that's simply not the case. He did not say that. He's spoken about aid to Ukraine, which didn't go directly to the Ukrainian government. We're talking about money that was spent on many other things in support of Ukraine, like training troops, including the cost of intelligence and humanitarian aid. The money is accounted for, Congressman, quite clearly.
Let me correct you on some of that. We paid for mortgages. We paid for retirement accounts, investments. If you're talking retirements, we're giving people money to invest overseas when it's supposed to be during a war. who's getting that money. There ought to be an accounting of it, and there is none. It was just basically $250 billion, and we gave them our missile defense system. So I'm sorry, we've got problems in our own country that we need to address. And again, Europe, they're all complaining now because they're going to have to start paying money. And I'll tell you, if you all start putting European boys and girls on that front line getting killed, you're going to have a real problem.
Okay, I put it to you that your comment about $100 billion going missing was wrong, and the money's been accounted for. I don't want to dwell on that.
It has not been accounted for. It has not been accounted for. Zelensky even said it was not accounted for, sir.
I suggest he did
and
not,
there is
sir.
no accounting of this money.
Yeah.
You show me the receipts. Tell Zelensky to produce the receipts of where every dollar went.
Okay, I've seen accounts that suggest it is accounted for, but I don't want to dwell on that.
There are no accounts, sir.
I'll move on.
There are no accounts. You're reading a false narrative that's being put out, and you continue to do this to run our country down. Yet we're the ones that saved your all's ass 2 different wars, if you remember. My uncle is buried over in your continent. So I resent what you're saying. I think it's false, and and all you're doing is reading talking points from some left-wing group. You've got your own dadgum problems. Y'all need to manage them. It's not our responsibility. It's not my taxpayer dollars. And all we're doing is borrowing money to give to you all, to give to Ukraine to blow it. And President Trump, all he said is we want peace. And that's what he's negotiating with right now.
Well, let me be clear. Let me be clear, Congressman.
About that.
It's
now,
no part of my purpose. Forgive me, Congressman. It's no part of my purpose to run America down. Just you can take that from me. I want to put a point of principle to you. Then you are a Republican. I know Ronald Reagan was in the White House before you became an elected politician, but he was a Republican who stood for the Western Alliance. He was proud of doing that. I personally remember reporting on his warm relationship with Margaret Thatcher, who was the British Prime Minister at that time. I wonder, what do you think Ronald Reagan would say now, seeing the Trump administration's attitude to its allies?
I think Ronald Reagan would say Russia is not the threat that it once was. Why are we not investing this money and going to war with China? Exactly why. Because the finances. Just follow the dollars. Old men make decisions, young men die, and they're going to continue dying. You have people getting snatched up on the streets of Ukraine, being forced into military service. You've got an unaccounted for dollars and cents. It's ridiculous. America needs to mind its own business for once. All this does is get people killed, and that should not be America's business.
Okay, Congressman, you mentioned the minerals contract that the president is seeking with Ukraine. I see reports that the White House is seeking bigger and better terms. As you see it, as you understand it, would getting a minerals contract with Ukraine mean American forces would deploy to fight Russia if those interests were threatened?
No, I would. But if Americans were killed, they would be. I don't think you'd have to. I don't think Putin or anybody else in Europe is stupid enough to pick a fight with the United States of America when Donald J. Trump's in the White House. I think that would be lunacy.
Right, so America would not defend those interests, Congressman.
I don't think we need troops over there.
I understand that. But in your view, America would not need to defend those mineral interests, because that I understood to be part of the supposed American guarantee of security.
I would think that, again, American civilians would not be harmed. I think that would be a fool's errand. I think Putin would incur the wrath of Trump. Look, I know Trump, and I know about his relationships with the people over there. Zelensky came over here, and he took some very bad advice. He campaigned against Donald Trump. He campaigned with Kamala Harris at an arms plant of all things, where they were making implements of war. And he campaigned with Kamala Harris, and then he comes to the White House dictating to us what he should do. And he got his ass spanked, and he got sent on back to Ukraine, as he should have. And he blew the deal. He cost Ukrainians lives with his arrogance.
Okay, I hear your argument. As you know, it's profoundly contested. Last question, and again, thank you for your time. It's the subject of and the cause of a meeting in Brussels among European leaders today. America is still the leading power in NATO, and the NATO treaty requires members to fight alongside any other member that comes under attack. So, Congressman, can European NATO members rely on that promise being fulfilled by America if there's ever an attack from Russia?
America honors its commitments, and they'll continue to. But again, if NATO members do not pay their fair share, then they're going to incur the wrath. I think NATO is a relic of a Cold War relic, and it should be in some museum right over.
So that NATO treaty
you
is
got members
qualified.
that are gonna do things. They're gonna push our buttons, and they're not going to pay their dues, and that's the problem.
Okay, and that NATO treaty, in your view, then is qualified in that way.
Is what?
You had a caveat to the NATO treaty article.
Yeah, I mean, if y'all aren't going to honor the agreement, then why should we?
I hear that loud and clear. Congressman Tim Burchett, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, brother. It's been a pleasure.